Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me this week for another exciting episode on some change conversations. And today I've got Fred. Fred will introduce himself. If you're finding us for the first time, please make sure that you follow us, subscribe, like, rate, do all the things that people do on social media, and comment. We really would love to get your feedback. So I've got Fred. He's going to introduce himself. Fred, how are you?
I'm doing well. Glad to be on this podcast with you today, Pomi. Excited to be here.
I'm glad to have you. Tell us a little bit more about who you are, where are you from, and what do you do?
Yes, certainly happy to do that. Originally from Ghana, West Africa, so neighbors there, right? But I currently live in Richmond, Virginia. I'm a podcaster as well. I'm an author and I'm a personal development coach. My passion really is about inspiring, helping people challenge the paradigms and mindsets that holds them back. So conversations like this I find really exciting because a lot of us find ourselves in situations like this and not sure how to really navigate. So glad to be here with you on your podcast to talk about promotion.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit more about your book. What have you authored?
Yes, my book. I'll show a picture of it here. This is a book that I wrote right at the start of the pandemic called Believe, Dare, Become. What you believe and dare influence who you become. And there is a chapter on there actually about opportunity, which kind of ties into what we're going to be talking about today. It's a personal development book. I found that, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people go through life and things trip us up, right? Whether it's a setback or failure or one-side event, and we get stuck, right? Some willingly, some unwillingly, and for some just don't know how to get out of that rut. So I wrote this book as a guide with 13 chapters, all questions that kind of help us along the journey, prod us and help us move on. So that's really it. It's a book that came out in 2020. It's out there where books are sold. I'm not making a marketing pitch there, but since you asked, I figured I'll share that. But that's my book. I'm working on a second one, which would be out sometime soon. So, yeah.
Okay, that's great. You're such a typical coach. Any books written by coaches have got a lot of questions.
Yes, that's the thing, right?
Yeah. So today, Fred, we decided that we'll speak about how to get yourself prepared for a promotion. So just let's define things. So I get very academic and I go, let's just go on the basics. Let's define it. What do we mean by promotion?
That is a good question. I refused to look up the definition because I wanted this to be very engaging. But promotion is simply, this is Fred's definition of promotion, right? It's a process of being elevated from one state to the other, right? So whether it's in a career, you're working, from one level to the other, whether from a manager to a director, you can apply this to life, financially, you can be elevated. Economically, there's promotion there as well. So any opportunity to be elevated from one stage to a higher state is what I'll define as promotion, and it's applicable whether it's career, personal, finances, education. It's applicable there as well.
Yeah. So when you say that, though, what the one question that comes to mind, if somebody moves laterally from one role to another, and it's different roles, that doesn't count as a promotion, does it? Or
it depends.
It does.
It depends, though. Those lateral moves are moves that people often overlook, right? You may be working in a place and there may be a lateral, but promotion doesn't necessarily have to be, it's not title based, right? I think we all get hung up in the fact that, I have to get a high title, I have to get an increase in salary, but it really doesn't have to be. Even when you're cross-functionally moving from one lateral position to the other. If you're going to be learning new skills, learning new values, meeting new people, networking, that is also promotion, right? Because you're being elevated from one, say, core set of skills, and you're going to be learning quite another. So yes, that can also be termed as promotion, even though it's not necessarily resulting in a higher salary or a title per se. So it all depends on the perspectives. And for me, I think that's really what a lot of us miss out, because we're focused on the end zone. We are focused on one particular area. But opening up perspective, I've had instances where those lateral moves have ended up in much higher positions and enriching experiences than initially thought. So those can be, if it offers opportunities to learn more, to meet more people, that could lead somewhere as well.
Yeah, and I like that where you're saying if you're learning more skills, if you are meeting new people, creating new relationships, that as well can equate to a promotional state. But as you say, we are all stuck on moving from this level to the next level to the next level. And that's how I think most people will define a promotional space.
Yes.
Yeah. But why is this conversation important for you? Talking about preparing for promotions.
Preparation is key. I think oftentimes we focus on, the end zone, the end state, right, without looking introspectively at what we need to do. There is a popular, and I don't intend to go spiritual here, but King David, right? Do we know the story about David slaying Goliath, right? And when we think about David, we think about, oh, he went and fought Goliath and killed Goliath. But what a lot of people don't think about, in Pumi, is a preparation. He was out there in the desert. He was out there in the fields fighting a bear. He fought a bear with his sons. He fought a cub. He fought a lion. He prepared. Yeah. He was ready, right? He got all those necessary skills. When he came time to find Goliath, and people were freaking out, asking his brothers, well, what are you doing here? Do you have the experience? Do you have the skills? No one knew what he was doing back in the desert, right? So preparation, I think, is important. It's important for us, even as we think about that in the corporate space, whatever we're doing. Yes, we want to land that title. We want to get that higher promotion, whatever that is. But what are we doing is a question I like to ask myself. What am I doing to get myself prepared for that job? Maybe your boss may be retiring in a couple of years, and they're looking at you and you're thinking, well, it's going to land in my lap. Remember, you're not the only one competing for this game, right? For this title. There's several other people that are doing it. And so the time comes and we don't get it and we're flustered. But what we don't think about, what are you doing right now to get yourself ready for that promotion, right? Preparation, I think, is key. And if there's any one thing that I want our listeners or audience to take away from this, is it won't just land on you. Well, it may, right? But you're at a much better place. You have a better shot landing that promotion when you put in the work to prepare now. John Wooden says one thing that I love so much. He says, when opportunity comes, it's already too late to prepare. The time to prepare is now.
Oh, wow. And what does that preparation look like?
It depends. It depends on what you're looking for, right? If it's a job that you're looking for, it is honing those skills. It's adding value to what you already have. It's retooling, reskilling. You don't expect in the workplace, and I'm a leader in the workplace, and I've seen this countless of times where people just expect things to land on their lap, right? But they've never added to their skill set, the values since the last 20 years. I had a chance to interview someone who hadn't updated his resume for 20 years. He was applying for a higher position. And he thought that because he was a top performer, that this was going to land on his lap. So he came to the interview very presumptuous and didn't prepare. And so when the questions were being fired, he was shocked. And he made a comment like, wow, I didn't think I was going to be peppered with all these questions. I thought you all knew me. It doesn't work like that in the corporate world, right? Preparation, adding value, enhancing your skills, taking those short courses. And it's important in life. You can't just stand still and expect that what you know, the knowledge you had 20 years ago is antiquated. The world is revolving at a very fast pace. So you can't rely on those old sets of skills as a way to help you get ready. You have to prepare whatever avenue, whatever field you're in, whatever career you're in, whatever it is you're looking at. Look at short courses. There's so many of them out there. and arm yourself with the tools and the skills. It could be in communication, it could be in leadership, it could be in emotional intelligence. And you don't even have to go to mainstream school to get a degree. That is great, right? But there's so many there are books that you can read, there are audio tapes, there are so many resources out there. As you rightly know, there's so many things that you can do to prepare yourself for that promotion.
Yeah. And I like the point you're making. Most people that I meet, they will, as clients, they will say, I've decided I need to study. I need to go do my honors, or I need to go do my master's. And my next question is why? Why do you want to do that? Because I think I'll get a promotion if I've got a master's. I'm like, but who said that? You're never guaranteed, right? And sometimes we want to go do a formal degree to prepare ourselves instead of actually maybe doing a certification or doing something smaller that will still put you in the same state as somebody who's done the degrees. And I get heartbroken about the money that we are putting in some of the degrees that we're doing that are really not doing anything for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. We're not bashing education, right? It's equally important. There's some careers that require that. Say you want to be a college professor, they require terminal degrees like a doctorate. And so that's your path. That's definitely it, right? But there are other smarter ways to doing it if that's not your end goal.
Yeah, no, that's very true. So when do promotional opportunities become available? Like when does this happen?
I wish I could say, I wish I could tell you when it's being ready for it, right? Sometimes if you're, in the workplace, you may be able to see, if maybe there are some people that are about to leave or people are retiring. You may see, or hear that some roles or maybe a new role is being created. You may see that, but in most cases, as I tell people, you just really don't know, right? You just really don't know if you're looking for, that green light, right? You don't know. Sometimes it happens, people just leave without notice and then something becomes available. But if you're not readying yourself now, if you're not preparing for it now, you may find yourself scrambling. One thing that I do, the day I get a new job is the day I update my resume, not because I'm ready or looking to apply for one really quickly. But I immediately update my resume. I add all the skills, and every time there's something new, I take a course, I update it. So that resume is always ready to go. I don't wait until something opens up. And of course, you may go and add a few things here and there, but I know people who don't touch their resumes. Someone hadn't touched theirs for 20 years, like the gentleman we interviewed, right? Didn't have any idea, wasn't even expecting anything, right? So opportunity comes, and they're now scrambling, right? Oftentimes, there are typos and things like that in there. And these things come through. The recruiters see it. So promotion may come. Sometimes you may know, sometimes you may not know. But the best way to get yourself ready for it is today, because some things may come in the next hour, the next day. You may not know, right? So, but it helps if you're in the workplace, maybe talk to other people in other departments to see if maybe anything's coming up, maybe any roles coming up, any open roles coming up to help you prepare for them.
Yeah. And what misconceptions are there, Fred, when it comes to promotions? What have you seen and what have you heard?
Oh, because I've been in this department, because I've been with this company for the past 20 years, I'm going to get a job, right? Or because I'm next in line, I'm going to get a job. Because I'm the most experienced, I'll get a job. Because people like me, I'll get a job. All those things are great, but they don't always guarantee promotions. Right? Because remember, in the job market, right? Of course, in the United States, at least, I can speak for because I live here. The job market is rather rather tight, right? There are still a lot of jobs out there with few people chasing it. So you may be able to compete. But I think one of the mistakes that we make is we're presumptuous. We think because we've been here longer or because we know it may work, but it doesn't always work. Because remember, you're competing with several other people who may be, polishing the skills and getting themselves ready and adding value. One of the things in Pome that also trips people up is the interview process, right? If your promotion or whatever you're seeking involves the interview process. there's so many, I've done hundreds of interviews and I see people come in sadly very ill prepared. I've seen people come in, taking interviewing from their cars, with noises around, people interviewing, and you show up and you're not prepared, you're not dressed well. They don't take the time to go through the interview questions. They don't learn about the company. And you can see through, you can't just come in and wing it. Interviewers are interviewers because of what they do. They can see through stuff. And these are people who have the qualifications, they have all that. But sadly, because they come in very ill prepared, that just takes them out. And it's sad, right? I wish I could, train, give them some tips. Hey, here's what you do. In the workplace, they do, right? As a leader, I have people who come to me, hey, Fred, I'm getting ready to interview for this job. And they'll come in and I'll walk them through, the questions and how to answer them, being confident, speaking well, being professional. Those things, unfortunately, people take for granted these days, but they count. They really do count.
Yeah, no, and I can concur, having been in corporate for the time that I was, and I always used to say internal candidates always take the interviewing process lightly.
Yes.
The thinking is, I've been here for too long. I know the culture of the business. I understand this business. I know the strategy of this business. And they're coming into the interview space and they just regurgitate what we all know. And you're thinking, but you're not bringing anything exciting. You're competing sometimes with external candidates who are going to come in not knowing a lot about the company, but they are showing their thinking. They've applied their mind. They could be wrong, but at least they are showing that this has been my thinking process. And that for me has been one thing that I've seen tripping a lot of people.
That is so true. That is so true. Couldn't agree with you more. Another thing also is when you won that promotion, right? What problem are you seeking to solve? And someone may be asking why. I mean, they're I won the job. They're looking for me, right? So they're looking for someone to solve their problem. So as you think through it, I do this a lot. In one interview process that I went through, they were hiring for a particular leadership role to help create a quality role in that department. And I studied the department. I knew they didn't have this role. So I created an entire PowerPoint presentation based on what I was going to do for them. I used, the company's mission, their goals, and I developed a robust program. And so, during the interview process, I used the company's name and I created, the various sections of this program using the name and I tied into it. And they were flabbergasted, right? Needless to say, I got the job, but it was that one thing. I took it a step further because I knew no one was going to do that. Everyone was going to come in and tell them, I can do this. But I showed them what success looked like. I showed them how this would impact the organization. And later on, when I asked my manager, what was it that, made her hire me? She said it was that presentation. Taking that time to create that PowerPoint presentation was what sold them, right? So again, think about the problem that the companies you can look into solve and see how you fit in, see how you can add value. Don't think of what you're going to get. Yes, they're going to pay you, but we get paid based on the problems we solve.
Yeah. And I think the important thing becomes what is that value that you're bringing and how are you showcasing the value that you're going to bring in. But a lot of people battle with this, Fred. So what tips can you give them around
that? Think of what it's a two-way thing, right? The company wants something. There's a problem, there's a need there that they're trying to fill, right? You want something, you want a higher title. So think of it as that's why they give you a chance to also ask them questions, right? Think of the number one problem that the company is looking to solve and think of how you, like you rightly said, how can you add value to it? What skills, what resources, why should they look at you as the candidate, as the ultimate candidate? Think in mind, you're not the only fish in that pond. You're competing with 5, 6, 7, 10, sometimes hundreds. I had one position that we had open up, and there were about 250 people, very well qualified people, by the way, that applied for it, right? but what one problem can you help bring or can you help solve, right? Why should they look at you, right? If you think about yourself, and this is a chance for you to sell yourself. We go to interviews and we're bashful and we're nervous and we're not able to sell. And people say, well, I can't sell myself. I can't either, right? I'm not that kind of person. But this is the one place that you have to sell yourself, market yourself. How you speak, how you carry yourself, what you bring to the table. How can you take that pain? And ask them questions. What keeps you up at night? And let them tell you and craft your answers around that. At the end of the day, they're looking for that help. And so personality, sometimes presents challenges because if you're not a natural speaker or you can't sell yourself and things like that, prepare, go online. There are hundreds of tips, interviewing tips out there online. Look them up and read them and practice. I mean, I wish I could give you like a magic wand or for you, here's a crystal ball, here's the one thing that it can do. But there are so many resources out there. If you want it, go for it, but prepare. And I've said this, I probably sound like a broken record, but preparation is what you get you ready for that.
Yeah. So do you encourage people to really ask some of these questions pre the interview? Like what are the issues that the business is facing?
Absolutely.
Or do you...
Absolutely. You need to ask those questions, right? What are the struggles of the business is facing? Because keep in mind, they're filling that role because they're struggling with something, right? If they're not struggling with something, they wouldn't be looking for that role. So I think these are questions that we often don't ask. And if during the interview process, the question is asked, what questions do you have for me? I get heartbroken when people say, oh, I'm good, I don't have any other questions. Like, this is a chance for you to get to know, what kind of a leader are you? What do you expect? You talking to the hiring manager, what do you expect from your prospective candidate? What does success look like? What are some of the struggles that this company is facing? What are your goals? Where do you see this company 5, 10, 15 years from now, right? What skills does the right candidate need to have? What will make you sleep well at night? These are questions that will get the hiring manager even thinking, right? I've hired people just based on the questions they've asked me, right? Because they're thinking ahead, right? So yes, I will definitely encourage people respectfully, right? Don't ask, how much money do you make? No, not that. But ask questions about the company, where they're going, what struggles they're facing, because this would help position you, right, when you're making that pitch to fit exactly right in there. So yes, I do encourage people to ask questions.
Yeah, because I think most of us, we don't think about asking questions pre the interview. We think we can ask questions only within the interview. And when you walk in there, you might have made a whole lot of assumptions about the company, and you have not asked that question to say, what is your pain? So that you are walking in with a very clear view of, this is how I think I can help with the business, and this is the value I believe I can bring.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that mindset of saying, because you might not be talking to the hiring manager before, you might be talking to the HR person, but I think just challenging them to give you feedback on what are the issues at play, that might be a good strategy for you to walk in with.
Yes. And sometimes the pre-interview, so I've worked with some very good recruiters who give you a lot of information up front. They tell you, who you're going to meet and even give you tips on what you prepare, what you need to prepare as a candidate on. And I find those very valuable as well. So use those opportunities if they come your way to ask any questions and to make themselves available. That's why they're there, right? Even when you don't get the job, this is one thing we fail to do. And it happens, right? You may not get the job because you may not be the best fit, or the job may not be the best for you. Sometimes we're just so discouraged, we're upset, we don't want any feedback. But sometimes the feedback post interview feedback can be very valuable as well, because you can glean insights and information from that to help you in that next one as well. So pre, during, and post feedback questions are very important as well.
Yeah. And I usually encourage people to get feedback, but what I've seen is, and what I've witnessed and heard from some candidates, is those hiring managers not even prepared to share anything or make the time for that feedback, which I think which I think is unfair. It's because it doesn't take much from you to either drop somebody an email or call them to say these are the reasons why we didn't hire you, so that they prepare for the next role. And I think for me, whilst I'm saying that, if there's any leader who's listening to us,
Yeah.
I
Yes.
would challenge them to really take that 5 minutes or 10 minutes to make that call, just to say these are the reasons why we didn't hire you, so that the person can be able to prepare for their next role and take that into account.
I think that's absolutely important too. And the delivery, right? The delivery and how it's said is also important. Remember, people are very emotional, they're invested, and sometimes they the way we deliver that feedback, I think it's important. So, let's do it with a positive intent. Let's pick one or two things. Here's what I think you should work on. Here's what I think you could do better. Don't say, oh, you did this, you were sloppy, you weren't. Those things are downers, right? So let's also be intentional about how we provide that feedback to the candidates as well.
Yeah. And even the good things that they did, because for sure
Yes.
there are good things, but they did not meet whatever the bigger criteria was. And
Correct.
how about then how do you make that message land? And I find that people appreciate it so much
Yes.
than just getting that letter from HR that says we decline to inform you that you did not get this job. You know what I mean? Yeah, we can be humane about these things, I think.
And the opportunities there clearly for us as well as leaders, for sure.
Yeah. So Fred, what do you need? You've spoken about preparing, but what exactly do you need to do to get to the promotion? So you're preparing, but what does that entail? Can we just break it down?
Let's break it down. I'll share a personal example as well. Before I started my podcast, this is something that I'd always wanted to do. So I came up with the name of the podcast, what it would look like, and the kind of theme, the genre, and I didn't have any idea when or how that was going to happen, but I had written it down on paper. What the name, the theme, how this would look like, the duration, the question segments, and all that. And one day, someone invited me to be a guest on her podcast. It was actually a radio station. This was pre-COVID. She was a regular radio guest presenter, and she invited me to come to the studio to talk about something, a program she was doing, a segment which she thought I could speak on. So I was happy to do that. So I went. We had a really good time, and at the end of the programming, the director, who also happened to be in the studio, wanted us to go out for dinner as a way to say thank you. And we were talking, and they asked, we would like for you to, or have you considered having a show of your own, and what will that look like? And we want you to, spend some time, think about it, and let us know if you're interested. Wouldn't you know, I already had this prepared. I had a name for him, like, well, if you want to hear about it, here it is. So I told him that I'd been getting myself ready for this. I shared the name, I shared what theme, and it fit right in there. This was somewhere around December. By January, that offered me the opportunity to be one of their presenters on their radio station. We did that, and then COVID happened, and then they transitioned to a podcast. Right, this was in preparation way, way, way before I even got the opportunity. Again, it goes back to what we talked about that earlier, right? When opportunity comes, it's too late. Oftentimes, too late to prepare, right? So, what you need to do is figure out where you want. Let's make this practical. Figure out, where you want to be, say, in the next year, 2, 3, 5 years. What does that look like for you? Where do you see yourself, right? If you want to be a professor in college, or you want to be, an IT person, or whatever it is. Think about that. Write that down, right? Where do you see yourself? Write down that vision, write down that goal. And then let's break it up a little bit. What do you need to do to get, what are some of the skills and qualifications that are required? Again, you can go online and look it up, and there's so much information out there, and see how you match, see what you have and see what you don't have, and start preparing for it. If it's 5 years, there's plenty of time. And if it's, one course a year or two courses a year, if it's especially expensive, try to do that. Try to do that as you get yourself ready for it. Break it down. Sometimes it seems so big, you don't even know where to start. But when you write things down, when you break things down, give yourself that timeline, right? And you may say, well, what if I get prepared and then your time comes and I don't get that particular? There's so many other roles out there, right? But what you do now really, really matters where you want to be or how you end up. So look at it, break down the time, see what you can add, and start little by little. I'm going to take one course a month, one course a year, however that looks like for you based on what you can handle, and do that. And by the time it gets there, you realize that you have all it takes, right, to get yourself down. But don't wait till it's too late and then, oh, I don't have this, and it puts too much pressure. But goal setting is key. Goal setting is key. Preparation is key. Write it down. Identify the problems you need to solve. Look at what you do best and hone in on those skills. Perhaps it's communication, it's presentation skills, it's public speaking. Those are all things that cut across, right, all industries. And these are skills that people look for. So where do you see yourself? What does it look like? What do you have? What can you add to it? And how can you start getting yourself ready for it now?
Yeah, I like that. And as you were talking, I was just thinking I could add, what I would like to add to that is sometimes people do not have career conversations with their managers. And I find that is important, because sometimes when you have those career conversations, you ask the question that says, so what do I need to do to get to the next level, whatever the next level is for you? And I think that for me becomes very important, because as part of that preparation, you already have some insights of these are the things that they are going to look at for the next role that I'm interested in.
And when you get that feedback, which I think is important to me, act on it. Act on that feedback. As a colleague that I work with, one of the managers who report to me, she's been having challenges with this particular person on her team who has been trying so hard, to get a role, but her attitude is just one thing that stops her, right? And she gets the feedback every year. I read through these reviews, but she does absolutely nothing with it. And she doesn't realize that by doing, you're ruining your chances. So when you get that feedback, act on it. Attitude is everything. And that's the one thing that people often ignore. Sometimes there's arrogance, sometimes they don't listen, they think they know it. Knowing is great, but if your attitude sucks, it can stop you from getting that role. So when you seek that feedback, or your manager gives you that constructive feedback on my behalf, work on it.
Yeah.
They give it for a reason.
No, and I love that, because I've just had a client who was saying to me, she lost an opportunity because she realized that she had a stinking attitude. And she had so many aha moments. And at some point she said to me, I'm the type of person who thinks I'm always right and everybody else is wrong. And I just don't have good relationships. Those aha moments for me were like a breakthrough of note, and now she's been working on saying, I need to change myself. Yeah. If I want to grow in this business, I need to change. It's not about everybody else, it's about me.
Yeah, that self-awareness, I think it's key. One of the questions I ask people when I interview them in the workplace is tell me about some of your strengths. And it'll be quick. I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. I'm like, okay, how about your opportunities or weaknesses? I don't like to put weaknesses because it has this negative connotation, but tell me, what are some of your opportunities? And that's when people get stumped, because they often don't think about that, right? They only think about, this is what I can do, this is what I do, but those aha moments, that self-awareness, I think, is key. Emotional intelligence, those are keys, right? So know yourself, know some of your challenges, and most importantly, what are you doing to improve upon them, right? They're not asking you, I don't ask those questions just because I want to poke holes. I want to realize if they have that self-awareness about them, and if there's anything at all they're doing to kind of help themselves get better.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, because at the core of it all, you need to know yourself so that you can know the goals that you want to reach and take that into account as you move forward. So as part of that preparation, know what it is that you want, right? and visualize it. Sometimes we underplay this thing of, because if you can't see yourself in something, how are you going to get there?
Exactly.
And sometimes we just think, oh, this super, like, what's up with this? I need to visualize something. But it's very important, because if you can't see yourself in that position or in that role, it makes it difficult for you to get there.
Yeah. As a man or woman, think it, right? So is he or she, might have. But yeah, I mean, it's that. It's absolutely that. Think yourself. Imagine yourself in that role. And people don't play it and put, oh, it's positive thinking. It's wishful thinking. What if I don't get it out? But what if you do, right? Of course, life doesn't guarantee. But what does it hurt? What does it hurt? Prepare yourself, see yourself in that role, act like it, and it goes a long way. It goes a long way. It goes a long way.
Yeah. But what do you say, Fred, to somebody who says, opportunities have come, I've put myself out there, I've applied, but I'm always not getting the opportunities. I'm not getting hired. In fact, I was having this conversation with somebody this morning. What do you say to that person? Because they're at a space where they're just feeling demoralized and thinking, I'll never move. Somebody who's been in a job for the past 5 years or 10 years, and they're just like, I still hope it will happen, but now I don't have, I feel stuck.
That is a great question, because I've seen this happen so many times. So if you've been applying, and if you're in a particular company and you've been applying, over and over again, and you're not getting it, seek feedback, right? Seek feedback, maybe from a recruiter or maybe from your manager. Get some objective feedback from someone and see if it's perhaps something that you need to do better on. I mean, this is one thing that people don't take advantage of. You have all these people in roles, find some leaders in the organization and go talk to them. And people will be really excited to have you pick their brain on things like that, and ask them, look, I've been applying for this role, within this company. Can you share some feedback? Can you look at my resume? Perhaps is it something that I need to do? Maybe do I need to structure my resume? Maybe are there some keywords that I need to use? Is it my presentation skills? Can you do a mock interview and see how I'm interviewing? Seek feedback, right? And see if there's something that you need to do, perhaps on your own. If after you've done all of that and you're not getting anywhere, perhaps could it be that it's time to maybe look outside, right? The organization. And I get this, no, I don't want to leave this company, but sometimes going outside may be where, you're recognized the more, right? I tell, there's a saying that I love so much. It says, don't go where you're tolerated, go where you're celebrated. Maybe you've outgrown that department. Maybe it's just not a place that encourages growth anymore. Look elsewhere, look outside. Maybe that next position may not be within that department. It may not be within that company. Maybe it's outside another company, right? That you may be overlooking. But start within yourself. Make sure you've exhausted all those options. Is there anything that I need to do? Is it my presentation? Make sure you've answered or checked all those boxes. And if after all that you're still not getting any headway, look outside. Sometimes you have to keep applying over and over and over and over again, right? But I know it can be very demoralizing. I've been there, right? But that next role, it's the next one. You hear about all these successful people, like Einstein and all these people who tried over and over and over again. KFC, over 1,000 times before someone says yes. Someone said yes to his famous chicken recipe, right? So yes, I know sometimes we get knocked down, we get tired. We're human, absolutely. But yes, let's not stay there, right? Dust yourself off. What is it that I can learn from here? And then one step after the other. But we got to keep trying. We can't give up just because you've tried 5 times and the door doesn't open, and so you give up. Don't give up. How bad do you want it? If you want it that badly, take every step as a learning experience. Learn what you can learn. and keep on keeping on until someone says yes. It's going to happen. It's going to happen, but don't give up on yourself.
Yeah, I like that, because I think and I was saying to this person this morning, sometimes it's just not about you. It's about how is your CV or your resume structured. Maybe because that's the first document that somebody engages with. And maybe it's not structured properly. Maybe it's not exciting enough for somebody to get to understand. And mainly for people who are career transitioning, because there's an element of saying, how do you then show your skills and your transferable skills, than you just talking about the stuff that you're currently doing, and how do you structure that in a way that is exciting enough when that hiring manager looks at it for a few seconds, they think, this is the person that I want to see.
Yeah. And sometimes, sorry, go ahead.
No, you can continue.
Yeah, I do agree with that 100%. And sometimes those gaps, right? Sometimes life happens and people leave the workspace, maybe, to go care for family, raise children, and they take a sabbatical of sorts from the workplace, and there's this huge gap, and they're like, well, I've been out of the workplace for so long, how are they going to perceive me, right? But sometimes the skills that you gather or the skills that you learn from doing whatever it is you're doing outside can be helpful as well. So if there is a gap, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get hired. They just want to know why you had that gap. So you can even start, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me over. I want to start by addressing this huge gap on my resume and say that, I had to take time, and I've seen that happen. And that didn't stop us from hiring them. They had to take time to care for their loved ones, things happen in their family, and people appreciate that. We're all human and we all deal with life-related issues. So even when you have those life situations or gaps, just explain why, what you did, and if there's something that you even learned, maybe you were starting your business that didn't go too well, that entrepreneurship skills that you learned. Here's what I learned. Here's how I think I can bring this into this role. So don't even let those things stop you, but explain them away, but bring some of the key lessons and what you learn from that, and how you can use it to help, them, especially for the role that you're asking. So don't let those things stop you.
No, I fully agree with you. So, Fred, what are the 3 things that you'd like somebody to take out of our conversation today?
We've said this over and over again, right? Prepare, number 1. Prepare. The first be, find the problem that it is that you're looking to solve. And then invest in yourself. Get yourself ready. Find a couple of things that you can do to help enhance. Don't wait till the last day. Don't wait for opportunity to come before you get yourself ready for that. The last one we talked about is don't give up, right? I mean, as simplistic as this may sound, you try a few times and it doesn't work. Don't give up and say, well, I've tried, nothing seems to be happening, I'm just going to give up. No, life is just about that, right? It's about being persistent. It's about getting in the fight. But every time you get let down, I know that can be bruising to the ego. Don't let that stop you. See what you can learn from that. Have someone look it over. Get some constructive feedback. See what you can learn and get yourself back in the game. But whatever you do, don't give up, right? Take that feedback, take it seriously. Don't assume that because you've been there, that it will be handed to you. You got to work for it. You got to go after it. You got to get after it with your own heart.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for the time. I think we've really gained a lot, and people will take something out of this. So for anybody who was listening to us or watching us, I really hope you will, even if there's one thing, there's always my line. Even if we impact one life, I think that will be, it's amazing. So if you've been listening to us, please share and comment and give us some feedback on how you found this episode. So where do we find you on social media, Fred?
My website is Gatty.com. It's FredGatty.com. It has all that information on there as to how to find me, my podcast, my book, and what I do. It's on my website, www.fredgatty.com.
Thank you. Thank you for spending time with us. And it's been great.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.